Hi, tonight's devotional is about David and Goliath. This must be the guy, Israel's new king, Samuel said. Samuel was looking at Eliab, the oldest son of a man named Jesse. God had sent Samuel to Jesse's house to find the new king for Israel. Eliab, Jesse's oldest son, looked like he'd make a great king. He was tall and strong and good-looking, just like Saul. But God said, no, not him. Was Samuel confused? Maybe. Eliab really did look impressive. But God told Samuel, you're looking at the outside of this man. I look on the inside. So Jesse brought out his next son. This one? Samuel asked God. No, God replied. Not him either. Samuel tried the next son, and the one after that, and the one after that. 7 sons in all. And each time God said, no. There was no more sons to meet, or so Samuel thought. Samuel asked Jesse, is that all? There's one more, Jesse said, the youngest. He's outside taking care of the sheep. Jesse called in his youngest son, David. David didn't look like a king. He looked like a kid. But God said, that's the one. Samuel poured olive oil on David's head as a sign that he was being set apart for God in a very special way. Someday, David would be Israel's king. He would follow God with his whole heart, and through David, Jesse's youngest son, would come the long-awaited blessing for the whole world. For now, King Saul needed David's big brothers to fight the Philistines. David's brothers were all big and strong enough to join Saul's army, but not David. Instead of fighting, David brought food to his brothers. And one day, while he was visiting them in Saul's army, David saw Goliath. Goliath was a giant, Philistine warrior, the biggest, tallest, strongest man they had ever seen. The Philistines challenged King Saul. If your strongest man can beat our strongest man, we will be your slaves. But if our strongest man can beat your strongest man, you will be our slaves. Someone had to fight Goliath, but who was brave enough? Who was big enough? Who was strong enough? I'll do it, a voice called out. King Saul turned around and couldn't believe his eyes. It was David, Jesse's youngest son, and just a kid at that. No, the king must have thought, I don't think so. You're too young, he told David. God has helped me save our sheep from a lion and a bear, David said, and God will help me save Israel from Goliath. It sounded crazy, but King Saul didn't know what else to do. No one else was brave enough to fight Goliath. Here, use my sword, King Saul said. No, thank you, David answered. It's too big for me. Instead of a sword, David took the slingshot he used to protect the sheep from the other animals. Then he picked up 5 smooth stones and walked onto the battlefield to meet Goliath. Look at you. You're like a little stick, Goliath laughed. And I'll break you into pieces and feed you to the birds. But David wasn't scared because David trusted God. The battle belongs to God, and he is going to help me strike you down, David yelled. Then David put a stone in his sling and swung it around and around his head. He let it go, and the stone flew through the air and hit Goliath right between the eyes. The great, strong giant wobbled, then fell down, dead. Israel was saved. Who had defeated Goliath? Not big, strong King Saul. Not Jesse's warrior sons. It was little David, the one who was supposed to be taking care of the sheep. David trusted God, and when we trust God with everything, God can use us to do amazing things, even if we're small. This one says, fun facts. The Philistine giant Goliath stood tall, roughly 9 feet tall. That's 3 feet taller than Miss Kimmy. In addition to his large stature, Goliath wore armor that weighed 5,000 shekels. That's 125 pounds. David, on the other hand, went into battle with no armor because it was too heavy for him to wear. With only 5 stones, a sling, and great faith in God, young David defeated Israel's largest enemy. All right, are you ready for the questions? Okay, first one is, why did God choose David to be king, even though he was so young? Pause the video and talk about it. Next question. What giants are you facing in your life right now? Pause the video and talk about it. Would you pray with me? Dear God, thank you for giving us the strength to win the battles we face every day. Help us to find courage in who you say we are. Amen. I'll see you tomorrow night for another bedtime story.